Kami Dyke button, which has invaded. Well, the Kami Dyke button came, it's sort of like a contradiction in terms, in a way. A lot of what many women have gotten from the community, response from the community and other people, both straight women and lesbians, is dykes. And so, as you can see right here, in British black, which is the color union, and here is the Labrys and the Soviet. It's sort of, you know, it's just putting it right out there, and that we're identifying ourselves with what they call us. They use the words, but what communist is, they don't really means. Just identify anything that anyone that speaks out against the United States is therefore identified as a Soviet or a Russian spy, the other, and communists, and they associate communists, which they know what that means. Government feeling.
What about the Dyke part? What's threatening to them about that?
Well, I think that the Dyke is totally a transformation of the heterosexual mentality and way of thinking. It's moving beyond as superior, the objective, to the lesser than. Has man at the top, and the earth, plants and animals and women as their misogynistic. What we've, lesbianism, dyke, gay women, we're moving beyond that mode of thinking into a more subjective, as the mirror image of me, other, and equal to the earth as an equal to in the sky, and all equal to in this horror of ownership, oppression.
What do you think the role of lesbians has been?
I think, well, I've not the whole summer. I'm aware that in the beginning there was a different environment that when I came here there was, because that's where my viewpoint is going to come from. Aware that it was that I came at an much easier and of an issue, and I came with many other just come from the Michigan Women's Music Festival. I think beneficial. All the people here, many women who have not, many who do not broken through or broken through their fear, lesbians, to open up and really see that we are women, we are sisters, and I can reverse lesbians who, because we are spread out in different communities and small groups, cling to their sisters, their lesbian sisters, for validating and security and the need to break through that and some ways of fully existing, of action, of actually moving away from the line of thought that we think that there was much more of a among women, group of women was for lesbians and heterosexual women. So we were discussing on it, and it was real powerful.
Has the lesbian community here at the camp been different in any ways for you, communities that you've been involved in?
Well, yes, I come from Los Angeles right now. That's where I've been living for years. And I've been in an environment there that very much into materialistic, the Hollywood scene. And I feel real lost and real unconnected. In fact, I'm leaving. I'm going to go back, I'm packing, which was my plan at the beginning of the summer. Because the women who are coming here are women from all over the United States and all over the world who are taking responsibility and have decided that we need to take action. That's not something from every gay woman, you know. That's not something that you're not going to hear from some straight women too, of taking that responsibility. The women that I'm with here now, I feel so connected to, and just so much of an awareness that's there, that I don't have to go in and lecture, because I'm feeling it already, and I'm feeling they're my sisters of like mind, you know. I mean, they think the thoughts like I do. I don't feel that a lot from a lot of other women in the area that I live in. There's some of us, but we're scattered over quite a radius.
Is that stronger with the lesbian women here than it has been with, say, straight women here?
For me personally, yeah. I identify myself as a lesbian. And I have focused my energy with my lesbian sisters, you know, but given warm, affectionate support to my non-lesbian.
In hopes of conversion?
Conversion.
Do you think
if that's right for them, yeah.
That some conversion has gone on here at the camp?
Yeah.
I mean, apart from the fact that we want to convert the base to peaceful uses, do you think that there's been some sexual conversion happening?
Well, you know, I was listening to one of the tapes last night that you had done, that was the interview with, and she was talking about, you know, the three issues, and one of them was the real, you know, we're invading, we're invading, and we're changing, and we're violating, and we're moving beyond the sexual oppression that, you know, has been in our society of, as us, again, as the misogynistic other, as the less than, as having no sexuality, as having nothing but to be the servant to men, and religion, and, you know, the whole patriarchal setup that religion has had, and we're stepping on uneasy ground, because we're tearing down all of those beliefs that have so conditioned our minds and been so present in our everyday lives, and we're saying you can step beyond that. There's no reason that you have to think this way. You know, you can move beyond that. We can go to a different level, and that level is to actually do it. We've talked and talked and talked. Now we're doing, taking responsibility here, you know. They've been screaming to us from, you know, Europe, and telling us that, you know, we got to do that. And there's been hundreds of years of women who have done it. You know, we're not the first, you know. Even, you know, Greenham Common women, their statement against the deployment of the nuclear weapons, the Cruise and Pershing II missile, was a Pacific, but they're not the only women who have, you know, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom and Women's Strike for Peace have been in the forefront against war. The women who, you know, were there during the Vietnam War, who let the boys into their houses, you know, who were the resistors, the women, I mean, they've always been out there doing it.
Do you think it's always been lesbians doing it? Even though that may not have been the most expressed overtly?
I think that the lesbians have been in the forefront. I most certainly do. if not totally out with their sexuality and their identity in heart, lesbians, yeah. And it, to me, lesbianism, I sometimes have a hard time with that, to try and say what is a lesbian, because to me, to use the term homosexuality and heterosexuality is again the patriarchal definition of who my sexuality is with, and only identifying me as that. It's been a transformation of me for almost 10 years. I'm coming upon my decade anniversary of being out totally, and blossoming like a beautiful flower. It's been a process of growth, and it's growth that's still going on for me to be able to really connect with and identify myself and really live as a lesbian. And it's been different roads and different things that have developed me into, but I would never deny it. I would never not have done it, I would it's so beautiful. Loving women is so beautiful. Women loving women is just like, the warmth and the caring and the understanding and the compassion and the joy and the sorrow and the love that you get in sorrow and the support that you get in sorrow and moving beyond that. And I want to be around it all the time. I'm leaving the city. I'm moving here. I want to be, it's just, it makes everything clear, and you understand what it means to be climbing up the mountain. The mountain is the mountain for all of us, and we've all got to help each other up it, because we're all looking for it.
Somebody's calling you, Dorothy.
I saved you. Come here. Look at this one. She wanted me to save her a little bit of my atomic.
This is an example of women loving women.
She bites it. She bites it before it gets halfway done, and she's eaten it.
Maybe we should join the circle now.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Women loving women circle.
That's right.
I love to I love to move. I love to hold. You don't like me. Right, Cindy?
Oh, shit. Get your sister straight.
This is the Cindy look-alike.
No, Cindy's the Barbara look-alike.
Cindy, come here. I want to see. Cindy. Cindy. Cindy, pay attention to me.
Are you on it? What did you perceive your role to be when you first came to the camp, or before you even came to the camp?
A learner. I think there's been so many changes that have gone on for me personally since I came to the camp. Definitely a learner. It was real hard for me to deal with the delineation between staff and non-staff, and it still is, and for me to continue here during the winter, I would like to work towards us being more of a collective, and that there isn't a delineation between staff and non-staff, but there will be, I'd like to see definite commitments and mutual accountability. As I listen to women in the background and feel sad and joyous at the same time, and my emotions are running real high, and just the changes, what I've learned, the magic that I've tapped into, the women that I've met, the wonderful. It's great.
Ever since I've been here, the one really strong thing I've noticed about you is the way you've been able to deal with the people who live here. Is that because you live here yourself, or? I don't think so. I think it's much more than that. I'd like to know what you have to say about it.
I think that sometimes people lose sight of the fact that we're all humans and that we all share the same fears and that we all have common backgrounds. Maybe not in this generation, but in the generations before us. And I think that it's real important to somehow tap into the common threads that we have, and that's how we communicate, is through those common threads, and that's also how we build, is by finding the common threads. And I think that the people in this area, I do know the people in this area from being here off and on for about 8 years, but I like to think that I could deal anywhere, and I've moved around the country now for the past 8 years, and I kept coming back to Geneva. You know, I kept coming back here for some reason, and it must have been this place that brought me back here all these times. I think it's real clear to talk, and not to talk at people, but to talk with people, and more important than talking is listening to what they have to say. The incidents of Waterloo and Interlaken and all their violence, I feel that the women, we became the objects of their anger because the people weren't able to verbalize exactly what they were angry at. I think that over the summer we've made people look at things and question things. And the more a person finds out that they're not in control of their own life or their own environment, the more angry I think people get. And we made people face that anger. And we became the objects of that anger because rather than admit that, you know, you're not in control, rather than admit that you've been duped by your government or you've been duped by the media to the point of being placated, to the point of being buried under apathy, rather than admit that you've been a dupe, it's a lot easier not to face that and to just get angry at those that are making you look at yourself that way or look at your world. And I think that we became the objects of that anger. They weren't able to work through the anger. But I also feel that now people are beginning to work through that anger from what I perceive as the reactions now from the people in this area. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's real important to listen before we speak sometimes.
Mm-hmm. What can you think of that have been some of the more extraordinary moments here for you?
In Interlaken, we were the 13 women that were outside doing a vigil, and the magic that brought us down there, the fact that our astrologers, Jane and Roberta, said that the charts were going to be real violent between 7:30 and 11, and that we were working on a timeline, and I went down there to find out what the women outside doing the vigil were doing, and we maintained this circle of power, and we had that power, and we decided to leave. And even though faced with the 100 people of the town and being stabbed with flags and stuff, the fact that we got out of there without any serious bodily injury over bruises, or that we got out of there at all when one of our cars was past the reserve spot on gasoline, you know, and just and then when we came back here and we shared the experiences, and your mind, or my mind anyway, works on so many different levels at once all the time. And in that incidence of extreme violence, what each one of us was experiencing within our own minds, we came back and we shared, and we cried and we sang, and we cried and we sang for hours, and we moved into the barn when it started raining, and women would walk into the barn and you could see them get hit by the blast of heat and energy that was in that room, and they spoke to that. Women that I have never heard, that I've known for 4 or 5 years, that I've never heard speak in terms of energy or in terms of magical power or whatever the words are. They said that they just walked in the barn and just got blasted by the circle that we had there, and the fact that people were coming to the barn from other areas and you could just see them pulling in and then just standing there witnessing this. That was one of the more incredible moments. The other morning with my diviner rods, that was incredible. You know.
Tell me about it. I haven't heard this story yet.
There's a letter that came, it was postmarked Rochester, and around here there's local mailboxes, and then there's mailboxes that everything gets sent to Rochester, so we indeed don't know where the letter came from. And the letter said that all the old timers know that people look in the wrong places, that it's not inside but outside, and our land was sitting in one of the biggest underground caves with passage to B Block.
What's being learned?
Well, I've since learned that a block is what they call an igloo that's underground, a storage area. And we know that there are igloos and blocks in the Q zone, but whether B block is one of those, we don't know that yet. And I did security from 2 to 6 with Alessandra and Coyote. And then we went out with the diviner rods, and we started mapping out where the diviner rods told us to. And it was incredible that every one of the borders that we found, there was already some marking by someone. You know, one, there was on a tree there was tacked up this message, "I promise," and underneath it was a little gold chain with children's faces and the charms, and we were just like, "Whoa, okay, no, we're not going to get too excited." Then the next place we found, there was spiderwort that had been planted with a beautiful rainbow made that was stuck underneath some rocks that were planted around there. We were like, okay, this is coincidental. Then the other boundary that we found, I saw 4 brown deer and 1 white deer standing across on the other side of the gate, and the diviner rods took me right to there, and when I got there the deer left, and sure enough that was the boundary. And then the other place there were 4 frogs that were like diving headlong into the fence, and that's where the other spot was. You know, we were just like, ah. And before we started, Coyote had drawn a map of what she envisioned we would find, you know, what the area would look like, and I didn't see the map, and we ripped it in half and stuffed it in the ends of the diviner rod, and then held them in place with grapes that we had taken from the Yates County women's wreath that they had made. And then afterwards, when I had made the map of the boundaries that I had found, we got back to the fire and were just, you know, telling all these women about it and basically tripping on the overload that we were feeling. And then we remembered the map, so we pulled out the pieces and we placed it next to the map that I had drawn of the boundaries, and there it was, the same thing. We were going, whoa! And for me, that day was just real emotionally charged, and we never really had a time to process all of what we had found and all of what we had felt. And some people don't believe in magic, and some people say it's hogwash, but what I've learned from this summer, I came here wanting to be the witch on the edge of the woods in Scheherazade, and I never felt that I had the time to do that. You know, I didn't have time to read, I didn't have time to write, because